So what are you specialized in and why?
Okay, great question. And so I pretty much treat various things, that clients present with, like from anxiety, depression, stress, anger, communication, relationships, trauma, things like that. Pretty much tier one type, stuff, non-emergency types services. If it were to escalate, beyond that, like tier two, tier three, where we're talking about hospitalization or residential care treatment, then I would obviously refer the client out to the appropriate care, as that would go beyond my scope of practice. But at the core of it, I would say anxiety is the thing that I specialize in the most. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why I specialize in anxiety is because it's common. It's anxiety and depression are often referred to as the common cold of mental health care. And part of the reason why it's often referred to as that is because I would say 18% of the population is diagnosed, of the adult population is diagnosed with anxiety. Mm-hmm. So that's roughly about 40 million, adults who are diagnosed. And that's just what we know of.
You mean in the US?
In the US. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times, people are walking around undiagnosed or self-diagnosing and stuff like that. So just from the statistics alone, we know that it's probably, more than that. And so for me, it's important to be able to, help clients who struggle with that to be able to manage that, because it's not something that you can cure. So let me just kind of be clear on that. Anxiety is not a disease that you cure. You just have to help manage that, because at the end of the day, anxiety is no different than any other emotion that we have as people. So it's just really being able to understand how to manage the intensity of it, because there's good anxiety and there's bad anxiety. Mm-hmm. So being able to understand the difference, because even with what we're doing right now, we have to kind of, prepare, and with the podcast, when I'm getting ready to go meet with a client, you prepare. So all these different things is because of anxiety. So we need a little bit of anxiety to be able to perform and do our jobs and, perform at a high level. Without that, we wouldn't be able to get anything done. But it's when it becomes too intense to where you start to think the worst and you feel like everything is going to go wrong. Mm-hmm. That's when we need to be able to bring it down a notch and to manage that. And the good thing is that with CBT, with cognitive behavior therapy, and some other theoretical orientations, we can easily help manage anxiety to where, someone can, function and go about their lives.
Mm-hmm. So you give some examples about good anxiety. Like, can you give some examples about bad anxiety?
Yeah. So a little bit about the bad anxiety. It's basically when you start to think the worst. Mm-hmm. Basically the definition of anxiety is intense fear or worry, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times, we start to think the worst case scenario, like maybe a situation might not warrant that. They might not, rise to that level of intensity, but in our mind, we think that. And so when we talk about fear, we know there's two types of fear. There's situational fear and there's psychological fear. So with situational fear, it's pretty much what it sounds like, so basically you're in a situation, maybe your life is in danger. Maybe there's like a wild dog at night or something like that in the dark.
Or a coyote.
It could be a coyote too. There's definitely coyotes running around here in Southern California. And so being able to know, like, okay, so this is a dangerous situation. How do I remove myself from that situation expeditiously and not necessarily take chances with trying to figure out how the situation might go? You just kind of make a run for it and just hope for the best. Mm-hmm. And so that would be classified as situational fear. Self-preservation, save yourself, get out of there. Understandable. But with psychological fear, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Mm-hmm. Your mind is basically, the anxiety has basically triggered that fight or flight response or freeze. And so you're basically thinking that, okay, I need to do something, but in reality, there's really nothing going on. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that saying, it's like all dressed up and nowhere to go. So it's like you're thinking that something should be happening. And neuroscientific research has kind of already told us why that is. And so the amygdala, which is that part of the brain that kind of serves as like that fear brain, or like they call it sometimes a threat detector, that thing gets turned on and it remains on. And so that's why the person is always on high alert, like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And so that fear brain, that amygdala is turned on. So imagine like having a smoke detector in your home, and that smoke detector goes off. Naturally, you're going to get up thinking, okay, where's the fire? So like you're going to look for it, and then you might see smoke, or you might actually see a fire, and then you have to react to that. But imagine if that smoke detector was on all day long and there was no fire. So that's kind of like what the anxiety is that amygdala is a little bit wired too tight. And so with some of the treatments and different things like that, some of the exercises with, CBT, you can kind of help, rewire that brain to where we can kind of turn off that amygdala. So it's not always, on high alert, thinking that there's a situation that's bad that's causing you to feel a certain way where there's no danger present. So, so that would be like kind of like what that is with anxiety.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Margot Bingham.
Karen Parsons.
You're now tuned in.
You're now tuned in.
You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in
to Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls.
Beard and Curls. Keep it locked.